Thanks for listening to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in American soccer. And don't forget to subscribe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast. My name is Jake Watroba. Joining me, as always, is producer Steven Jadaran and FC Dallas beat reporter for Pro Soccer USA, Armand Kafai, and our very special guest, Joseph Lowery of The Athletic. On this episode, we discuss CONCACAF Champions League and how competitions like the CCL and the Gold Cup affect MLS. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Now, let's get to today's episode. Guys, how you guys doing? Joseph, welcome back.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, we're so happy to have you on. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to just talk soccer, talk MLS, talk Champions League. Armand, what's going on in Dallas? What are you doing?
Dude, Dallas is really wild on this Friday night, man. I don't know about you, but
it's lit. It's lit, I hear.
It's really lit. I've done a lot today. I've talked to Steven for like over 2 hours, I think.
Yeah.
Steven.
Yes.
Why are you recording an episode of Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast on a Friday night?
That's a great question. I don't know why.
I don't know. What are you guys doing? Anyway, let's talk football. Should we talk football?
You know what's really lit though? Did you guys see the Champions League, or no, maybe it was the Europa League entrance for
Zenit? Yeah.
Zenit. Did you see that?
Yeah,
did you guys see the buses and the flares
getting Iranian forward scored 2 goals. So, and he was linked with the Vancouver Whitecaps for the longest time.
Oh.
Weird. We can make a full circle ending of MLS and Russian League. That's pretty crazy, guys.
Or the Indian Super League and how great that is on ESPN Plus.
Hey, FC Pune City, man.
Yes.
Pune at Pune.
Anyway, fellas, CONCACAF Champions League. Boy, was it a kind of a disappointment, huh? To sum it up.
Disappointment? I don't know, man. I got CCL fever. I mean, I was sweating. Like, I've had the flu, and this CCL fever was pretty bad compared to that flu. But in reality, I was really disappointed on Thursday with Atlanta United. I think me and Joseph were texting back and forth. Steven was trying to, be like, hey, bro, it's okay. It's only one game, Yeah, it's all good. But Atlanta United looked absolutely awful. But, hey, I mean, at least SKC beat a Liga MX team, right? That sucks, and they're about to fire their manager, right?
Right.
Like, positives?
All right, let's run through the games. Let's begin with Toronto FC. They took on CAI. They lost 4-0 on the road. Guys, what's going on with Toronto?
I mean, I'm going to jump in here. That game was unbelievable. I mean, the back line was out of sync. Saman was going off and kind of doing whatever he wanted. I mean, I liked the attempted sort of wrinkle from Vanny to put Aro into midfield in possession, but I mean, they just look so devoid of ideas and like almost just scared to not let Michael Bradley have the ball. And then there was no attacking impetus whatsoever. I mean, when your 2 wingers are Griffin Dorsey and Justin Morrow, I mean, that was not a good game.
Toronto FC's trash. They lost to Las Vegas Lights 5-1. But it's preseason.
You're really on that result. That result really ticked you off.
It's preseason. I swear to God, guys. No, they suck.
Why do they suck? Elaborate on that. Why do they suck? Come on.
Oh, why do they suck? All right. Well, look, their back line is in shambles. Last year, they had to play Michael Bradley at center back for most of the year. And what's their replacement? Lawrence Simon, who looks absolutely awful. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Michael Bradley went back into as a center back because they just look all out of sorts in the back. They tried playing Aro Jr. as an inverted center mid, kind of like what Nick Lima was doing, and I don't think Aro Jr. has the technical ability to play more centrally compared to his pace on the wings and being able to whip in balls. And like what Joe was saying, Griffin Dorsey, like, no offense to Griffin Dorsey, that's his first professional game. It's in the CONCACAF Champions League. Like, how are you going to let that happen? And then no Altidore. Boyd, he's saying, oh, I'm going to beat everyone up in MLS. I'm going to knock the hell out of them, blah, 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 blah. Sky's a penalty. Like, yikes. Like, this team hasn't found a replacement for Sebastian Giovinco, who's been responsible for like 90% of their goals. I can't confirm that. 90% of their goals in like in MLS and CCL. He's the guy who basically led them to the final. So, I mean, look, you haven't replaced them. They're not going to be good.
People need to be reminded that Toronto fell off the map last season. I know they made it to the CONCACAF Champions League final, but apart from their CONCACAF run, they were god-awful. Greg Vanney, that 5-1 defeat to Las Vegas put a sour taste in everyone's mouth. Then they go out. You don't even have to play well. Just get a result that you can take back to BMO Field and try to move on. And if they could have moved on, they could have, maybe picked up some steam early on in MLS season. But this defeat is demoralizing, and I don't think Greg Vanney has to do something to shake the locker room up, because if not, he's on the hot seat. He won't make it halfway through the season if this is the Toronto FC that we're going to see moving forward.
I mean, yeah, Steven, you're right. I mean, there's no way Vanney will make it through the season if this is the Toronto FC that we actually see this season. But I'm not convinced that once they figure out whatever they're planning to do in the transfer market and then actually get healthy, I mean, the roster is still good. I mean, that midfield, that Delgado, Bradley Osorio midfield is, in my opinion, at least pretty quality. And then an Altidore and who's that guy they're looking at in Belgium? I don't know who they're.
I don't know how to say his name, but the guy from Genk, yeah.
Yeah, the guy from Genk. So, I mean, there's talent there, and the defense definitely is a concern. But I'm not ready to push the panic button only because I don't know what the roster is going to look like. But if there aren't changes, I mean, yeah, aggressively panic.
Can I ask you, Joseph, and Armand? I'm going to ask you guys this question here. Last year we said that the reason why Toronto FC fell off was because they made that deep run in the Champions
League. And
then,
health, because they were failing to lack the health they needed. You know how much crap I heard the entire season? They're unhealthy. Toronto FC, well, they just
all
need
right,
to
Mickey
get
Mouse,
healthy.
I'm sorry, dude.
They just need to get
Mickey
healthy,
Mouse.
and they're gonna be successful. They never came. Their health, it came, and they were still awful. Like, I hate that excuse. Oh, wait for them to be healthy. I'm not trying to crap on your take, Joseph. Like, I think it might be it's probably more valid than the one I'm saying. But last season, every MLS writer, just wait for them to be healthy. It never worked out for them when they were healthy.
Yeah, so what was your question, Jake? I
was going to say if an early elimination in the CONCACAF Champions League would bode well for them in the MLS season. I guess we'll get both your answers very quickly, and then we'll move on to the next game.
Look, it's not maybe because it'll allow them to focus just on one competition, but it's not good because I mean the Canadian Championship is still weak, and they're still gonna contend for it and win it year in and year out. So I think they might get early eliminated, especially because they won't finish his signing in time, but they will get eliminated.
Wait. The early, I mean, are we really thinking they're gonna overturn?
No.
The 4 goals.
No. I forgot it was 4. I thought it was like 2-0 for a quick second. But no, they're not going to overturn it. I think it'll be good for them. I think actually, just to focus on those things, but they need to add that DP in my opinion. If not, they're kind of screwed.
Yeah, it pains me to say, but I agree with everything Armand just said. I think we will see Toronto eliminated from CCL and have them just focus on MLS. They're not that deep. So I think just focusing on one competition, really, I mean, if you exclude the Canadian Championship, it will be a good thing for them.
Well, great. Let's move on to the second game of the night here. That was, God, I don't even know how to even pronounce this Guatemalan team. Is it Guastatoya? Guastatoya. Thank you, Armand. Versus Houston Dynamo. Dynamo get the win on a late goal by DeMarcus Beasley. Armand, we'll start with you. What were your biggest takeaways from that matchup?
Boring game. Houston did enough to get the 3 points. Man, I watched all of it. They had created opportunities. Guastatoya wasn't that threatening. It looks like they were really stable in that match. And, DeMarcus Beasley had this moment of magic right there. I mean, there's nothing really much to say. It was kind of just a meh game. Elise was terrible. which it pains me to say it, but Albert Elise was what linked with like Fenerbahce at one point this transfer window, so he wasn't looking that good. He actually got subbed off early, and I think it's a solid result for a Dynamo, who are going to get stomped by Tigres even if they advance. So,
well, wait. This we have to do a hot take police here because Armand thought Houston would just suck in the CONCACAF Champions League.
Dude, they're playing Guastatoya, man.
You thought?
Have you heard of Guastatoya?
No, who has?
Okay.
Who has honestly thought?
Okay. They have, and they're a Guatemalan team. You expect an MLS team to beat a Guatemalan team?
No, you're right. You're right.
So they should get.
But Armand, I expect an MLS team to beat
a Costa Rican team.
No, to beat an El Salvadorian team, and that they got stopped by Toronto FC got stopped. So I mean,
Panamanian. They're Panamanian.
Panamanian, sorry, whatever country. And I mean, let's be real here. The biggest teams play in Mexico, the U.S., and then you have Saprissa and Costa Rica. I mean, come on.
That Saprissa game was great against Tigres. I kind of nodded off and watched that instead of Toronto.
I think we all did.
Are we all in agreement here that Houston Dynamo, this is probably the one matchup they're going to win, and then they'll probably get knocked out by either Saprissa or Tigres?
Yeah.
No, I disagree. I think they're going to be the plucky team that they win this round, they pull the upset, and then they crash out.
Oh, so Steven wants to go one step further. All right, cool.
It's tournament football. Houston's set up to play tournament football. Does it not remind you a little bit of how, I don't know, last year winners did it?
Who, Chivas?
Chivas, where they literally sat back and it was not quality football, but they got the results they needed. Who cares if you look pretty? It's just about getting the results. I know this team is who the Dynamo are playing is nobody. They're a bunch of nobody. Guastatoya. I get it, but this builds momentum. And then when they're such the underdog against whoever they play, probably Tigres, or I think it's gonna be Tigres. I think Tigres will find a way to get through. I just personally think Houston has that character where they can just suck it up and pull a couple results out of nowhere.
I mean, I think you could be right, Steven, actually, but I sort of have my own issues with the Dynamo. Guys, are they actually good at anything?
Well, that's the point. That's the thing, is they're not great at anything. They're okay at everything. That makes them...
No. Joseph said good. He didn't say great.
No, I said they're not great at anything. I said they're okay at things, but that's what makes them dangerous in these types of competitions when it's knockout. Did they not win the U.S. Open Cup?
They're spooky.
That's actually fair. I really struggled watching that Houston Dynamo game the other night because I don't know. At times it's just painful to watch. It's like I don't really know what the plan is when you see them play, and so that I sort of have a hard time justifying the fact that they actually could be competitive in this tournament. But Steven, you're not wrong. I mean, that they do fit sort of that type of team, that traditional underdog. They don't necessarily want to play with the ball for long periods of time. So they tend to attack fast in transition. And that can be dangerous, especially in these knockout tournaments. So, yeah, I mean, I'm actually sort of on board. I think I may have just talked myself into being on board with your take, although I still don't think they're gonna make it out of the next round. But I like where your mind's at.
I mean, look, they won the U.S. Open Cup last season. The year before, they made it to the Western Conference Finals, right?
Yeah.
So they know what it takes to win on the road, but also play tournament football. The character of the team, to me, does not suggest they're going to win it. Doesn't suggest that they may even go far. But I do think they could be that plucky team that nobody really knows about just because they hunker down, they're okay with conceding possession, and they got the speed to break. They get a couple of bounces, boom, bomb, bing, and they're up on the aggregate. Next thing you know, it's impossible to score against them.
Well, that's great, Steven. Let's segue here. Let's talk about a team that's not really all that great at tournament football. Let's talk about New York Red Bulls. They win on Wednesday night 2-0 against what?
Did you just say they're not that great at tournament football?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Show me the trophy case.
Oh.
Oh.
Ouch, that hurt me. I'm not a Red Bulls fan.
They win. They win 2-0 away at Atletico Pantoja. Did I say that right? Pantoja?
Sounded good.
Sounded right. Let's start with Joseph. Is this going to be another repeat of last year for Red Bull? They're going to come close and then nothing happens.
So let's start
just more disappointment, more darkness,
Tottenham Hotspur-esque.
More the same for New York Red Bulls in regards to anything that involves any kind of meaningful trophy.
I mean, I'm a little bit afraid to say it, but it kind of feels like that, right? I mean, it feels like the Red Bulls are in perfect position to be a really good MLS team this season, like upper echelon, really one of the top teams in the East. But until I actually see them play consistently and see that maybe there's something different this season, maybe Armas has instituted something that has the potential to actually get them over that hump. Until I actually see whether or not that's the case, I see no reason to believe why they wouldn't be the same Red Bulls team, the same very good but not quite great Red Bulls team we've seen.
I'm saving my Red Bulls take until later.
That's a fraud take.
I literally have a specific reason why, and you know why. You're looking at it why.
Come back tomorrow's episodes to find out more why Armand's take about Red Bulls is blank, because none of us know what it is.
But I thought they played really well in the CCL game. 2-0 result. They're going to make it to the semifinal, I think. There you go. It's my take right there. But my real Red Bull take's hidden. So.
All right, well, let's talk about Sporting KC's emphatic 3-0 win against Toluca.
You're loving Vermes recently.
I think Peter Vermes is a great coach. I think he has the locker room built together. I mean, this team came out like they were not in mid-season form, but looked like they've played multiple games have had multiple games under their belt. They play together. They've got talent. I mean, did you see some of the goals they scored? It's like, yeah, we're Sporting KC. We do what we do. Bang, bang, bang. They could almost relax a little bit on the return leg in Mexico.
Okay, so I'll give you my take on this. Toluca has been really poor in Liga MX. I think they're sitting at 15th. I want to say Crisito is kind of, on the hot seat right now, the manager for Toluca. Their run of form is really bad. I mean, basically his report says hot seat is really hot right now. Toluca's going to end up losing this game, and he's going to get fired. That's how hot his seat is. They're in big trouble. They're in big trouble, I'll tell you that. So SKC's win, really cool, but Toluca has been pretty bad. And if SKC figures out a way to bottle this, you can take your Vermes take back, because that'd be disastrous if they blew this.
I mean, I agree with what Armand's saying. I mean, yeah, Toluca is not necessarily a great Liga MX team, but
they're terrible right now.
Okay.
Right now, at least, they're terrible.
So they're a bad Liga MX team. But it's still, it kind of puts the rest of the games in context, the rest of the MLS CCL games in context, where SKC's 3-0 victory is the biggest storyline, because the other teams just tanked. I mean, with the exception of the Red Bulls, and the Dynamo game was just really not great in any sense. I mean, they got the away goal, I guess. But yeah, SKC's game kind of is the storyline from these. And I think that probably says more about the rest of the games than it does about them. But at the same time, I also feel a little bit bad about saying that, because I think they did have a really good performance. So I'm kind of actually split down the middle. I think I changed my opinion about 4 times while I was talking there. But
Peter, I think this is the sole reason why Sporting KC is in the position they are now is because of Peter Vermes. I think he commands the locker room. He has expectations. We've spoken on the show with Matt Beasler. He talks about the expectations that Peter Vermes has and wants and implements on its players. So this is a great benefit when you're playing tournament football. Bobby Warshaw, God, I hope it's Bobby Warshaw, wrote about it for MLSsoccer.com, talking about the idea of tournament football is not to look pretty. In fact, this is not the stage for you to implement something new tactically. You go out there, be yourselves, and you trust what you fundamentally are as a team to get to the next round.
So you're a believer in this case, is what you're trying to say.
I am a big believer. Big believer. But you got to come back tomorrow to find out who I think will get further in the CONCACAF Champions League.
Wow, what a tease. What a
back-to-back teases.
That is an A+ tease right there, Steven. Wow. Well, speaking of teasing and a team that we all thought would do very well in the CONCACAF Champions League and then end up falling on their faces, let's talk about Atlanta United. They lose 3-1 in Costa Rica against Herediano. Is that how you say it? Herediano and their manager who looked like Fat Magic Johnson. Guys, I wanna just wait for the second leg and look. You'll see he looks like Fat Magic Johnson. Anyway, guys, I want to talk about what happened with Atlanta here. Is this it's preseason basically for MLS teams. Atlanta didn't have their legs underneath them. Or is this Frank de Boer got the tactics all wrong?
Yeah, so I only saw the second half of this game, and I can't rewatch it, so I can't say in specific detail what the huge issues were, but it really seemed like, and Armand and I were actually going back and forth on this, like they were somehow outnumbered in attack and in defense at all times. I mean, it's absurd. The players didn't look like they knew what to do when they had the ball. It just kind of ended up in the front three sort of dribbling forward, but there was no support that came up. So watching that game, it's really hard for me to see what De Boer was trying to do. Maybe he thought that he pushed those wingbacks up early and grab an early goal and play with an advantage away from home. But yeah, I mean, this game was just awful. I mean, it's not a good look when the champion of your league goes and they get smacked in a game like that. Even, okay, you can say it's preseason. You can say it's their first actual game, or you can say whatever you want. But it was a bad game tactically and just a bad game in literally every sense.
So is it my time to shine with my Atlanta? It was an awful game for Atlanta United, and when I mean awful, I mean it in the highest degree. It was end to end, which concerns me because against a Costa Rican team, and everyone's like, give the Costa Rican team some credit. They played really well, and it's like, yeah, we'll give them credit. But you're talking about a team that has the reigning South American Player of the Year, one of the highest payrolls in MLS, and probably in CONCACAF as well. You go through it. It shouldn't be end to end. It shouldn't be like this. It should have been, them controlling the possession and going after attack and lumping on pressure. But what was it? As Joseph said, it seemed like it was 3-on-5 when they were attacking and when they were defending. So what was going on? The midfield was non-existent. Bello looked really bad, and it pains me to say that as a guy who believes in George Bello, but he looked awful. LGP was out of sorts, out of whack, going into tackles, although he did turn it around after the third goal. But I honestly think Herediano could have gotten 4 or 5, if we're being completely honest with ourselves. You have Joseph Martinez miss a sitter of a header that he should score to make that would have pulled it back to 3-2. If it was 3-2, I don't think it'd be a little bit more different conversation. But okay, he got it wrong, but Atlanta's in a driver's seat. They just gotta get one goal and they'll move on. But it was just overall their midfield is non-existent. I feel like Herediano was just running right past it and getting into the attack. I couldn't believe it, and it makes me wonder because we did talk about how Atlanta United was getting exposed in the counter, right? I think that's one of the reasons why I said, hey, maybe we shouldn't buy into their MLS Cup stock as much because teams play counterattacking football and they get caught. Well, I feel like we saw that, but it was without, Tata Martino's crazy press with their fullbacks and their defensive mids coming back, and we saw it all get exposed. I think if you're De Boer, me and Steven were talking about this before, you got to rip that up and throw it away and say, hey, we got to change it up and maybe switch to a 4-back line where it's more there instead of pushing your fullbacks extremely high and leaving your defense really exposed.
Well, the board needs to find something that works and works quickly because they have 90 minutes to overturn this. And if they do not move on to the next round, it is utter failure. Complete failure. Everybody thought this is the team. This is it. This is Atlanta's moment. What Toronto FC did last season was maybe not a surprise, but they lost the opportunity to cement themselves in MLS history. I mean, they already have, but this would have put them the first. Everyone remembers their first. If Atlanta fail, then I think CONCACAF Champions League loses its hype. It loses its momentum as a competition. If Atlanta goes far, think about the Benz. Although they won't be playing at the Benz on their return leg, they will be playing at some 10,000-seat stadium called 3rd Fifth Bank Stadium. So, we'll see. Guys, before we move on quickly, does Atlanta overturn this 3-1 deficit?
They will, based on the talent they have, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Jake?
No.
No.
They've lost. It's over. They're dead. They're dead in the water. This is over. They looked like Armand said. Herediano should have had maybe 4 or 5 goals on them, and playing that 3-man back line that they did Thursday night, something's got to change. DeBoer's got to go back to the laboratory there and make some adjustments. But I don't know. 3-1. They got the 2-goal deficit. I think Herediano can probably hold on it, and they're not playing at the Benz. They're playing at a 10,000-seat stadium. This says all the makings set up for Atlanta to fall flat on their face in the opening round of the CONCACAF Champions League.
Fellas, moving on. We got the Gold Cup here in the summer months. I know we will be covering it. But what does that mean for MLS managers, front offices, the players? How will it interrupt their campaign and quest to MLS Cup in the playoffs?
I mean, it's tough, right? Because we kind of saw this happen on a larger scale in terms of the global impact. But at the World Cup, we saw this kind of happen. MLS teams lost some of their players, and it made the league play a little bit more difficult. And I think we'll probably see the same thing, right? I mean, if the schedules are overlapping, then there is going to be some sort of effect. So, I mean, at the most basic level, I think we will see sort of a little bit of a damaged product in the league during that time. But at the same time, as someone who kind of looks at the young players a little bit more, especially the domestic ones, it could really be an opportunity for some young guys to step in a little bit during that time when rosters are a little bit weaker and actually get some minutes.
Yeah, I agree with Joseph there to a certain extent about the young domestic players here in the U.S. and Canada getting a chance to play during the Gold Cup. That'll be good, for your developmental for the young players. But I do think MLS playing during the Gold Cup, it almost kind of delegitimizes the league. You don't agree?
Well, I don't know. I just think the Gold Cup's stupid to begin with. Like,
the Gold Cup is stupid first and foremost. By the way, my hot take: the U.S. would win the Gold Cup. I think is what I said.
Won't.
Whoa.
Wait. Hot take on the show is U.S. won't win the Gold Cup, but according to Armand, they will compete for the World Cup in 2022 and in 2026.
Yes.
No, okay. You guys have gone off a tangent here. Anyway, yes. A competition like the Gold Cup going on, which isn't really that great of a competition to begin with, while MLS also happens to be going on at the same time, I just think it's a bad look for the league. Why can't we take a month off in the summertime?
Wow, it almost sounds like we should, I don't know, flip calendars, take a couple months off, 6 weeks off during the winter. Next thing you know, you don't have the Gold Cup. You could play the Gold Cup. It might mean more. You don't have clubs interacting weird. Just saying, there's a lot of easy solutions to these problems.
No.
That's it for today's show. Make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at UncSamSoccerPod. Make sure you follow our very special guest, Joseph Lowery of The Athletic. He's at Joe in Cleats. Follow Armand Kafai at Armand Kafai and Steven Jodran at Steven Jodran. You can follow myself, Jake Watroba at Jake Watroba. For Joseph, for Steven, for Armand, and for myself, we'll talk to you guys later. Deuces.